So, hello, Michelle Galoob. Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I
So
know, I'm
excited.
excited too. We're already I feel like we're already clicking. This is going to be really good.
Me too. I love your energy, I just have to say. You are a bright, bright energy.
Well, thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that probably more coming from you as you are an intuitive.
I sure am.
Yes, you are. So
Yeah.
let's hear about you. We're going to talk about a lot of fun things today. We're going to talk about, I want to hear about I want to hear about your story first, but I do want to get into something that's I'm so passionate about, which again, we're recording this through the Academy of Awakening. And you talk to people about who they really are. And that's something I feel like I'm on the planet for, like helping people to
Absolutely.
remember who they are. Like that's I love it. So we're very aligned. But I love having different guests come on because everyone has a very different perspective. And I feel like we need a village really to help others. So I'm
Absolutely.
excited to hear. First of all, let's start out
Yeah.
with your story, and then we're going to get into what your take is on helping us to remember who we truly are, and then a whole bunch of other things. I've
Amazing.
got a list, but we're going to,
I love it.
yeah, we're going to
Okay.
knock it out today.
I love it. I love it. So, okay. So we're going back several years. I over 10 years.
Uh-huh.
I was in a place in my life that things were a little bit crappy, not really going so well. And I was that person who would always rely on my logic and my brain to come up with a solution, right? So, like, what's the logical thing to do? What solutions can we find? And, I used to work in fashion. I was very much that girl, right? So, anyways, I was never that person who would ask for help, like from anyone, let alone from the guides, from anyone outside of me or, otherworldly. So, but I got to that point that I really didn't know where to turn anymore. And people's advice didn't do it for me anymore. Like, I was like, I can't, it's not working. So I went to bed this one night feeling really broken. And I begged the universe for help. I literally was crying tears, which was so unusual for me. I'm a Capricorn. I don't know if you know anything about astrology, but
I
we're
do.
not the we're not the crying type, okay? Like I was just not that person. Anyways, but I'm like crying, please, please help. Like I just need an answer. I need to know what to do because I really couldn't. I couldn't do it anymore. So um anyway, so that night I beg, and that night my spiritual teacher, I study Kabbalah, and he had just passed away, the founder of the Kabbalah Center. So he was my spiritual teacher. He passed away, and he appeared in my bedroom, and I freaked out. I was like, "What is going on here?" Like literally, I my heart started racing. I thought that I was making it up. I thought I was imagining. I'm like doing this with my eyeballs. I see him at my bedside and I start to have a conversation with him. And I also see my husband sleeping next to me. So I knew it was real. I knew and it was all happening. I wasn't asleep. I was awake and I was seeing it. So I hear him tell me, it's me, and you can ask me anything you want. I was like, what? So I start with all my questions. And, I just had a miscarriage right before that, and everything was feeling very heavy. And so one of my first questions was, am I going to get pregnant again? Like, like, is it going to happen for me? And he was like, yeah, all you need to do is X and you will get pregnant. I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. I got pregnant 7 days after this event. Yes,
Wow.
with my middle child. So, anyways, cut a long story short, this was a really magical, crazy experience for me. Like it was as though I saw the light. I mean, I did. Um,
You
okay,
definitely did.
I definitely did. So we're having conversation, and it was insane. It was insane. He answered all my questions. The next day, I told my husband, I'm like, not gonna believe this, but blah blah blah. And he was like, wow, that's amazing. Like he didn't judge me, which was I was so grateful for because
Uh-huh.
it could sounds weird. It could be weird to the average person. Um, but I was so inspired by that interaction that I begged for it to happen again. And it did a month later. And similar thing. Now, shortly after that, I started to hear voices in my left ear. So that was like the opening and then the voices. Now, I didn't know what these voices were. I thought it was I thought I was like schizophrenic a little bit. I thought I was overthinking. I thought it was
Hmm.
my thoughts.
Hmm.
I was like, whoa, I'm thinking really a lot lately. And whoever I would meet along the way would be like, they were like, how do you know that about me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I was like, I don't know, I just thought it. So I really didn't know that what was happening to me is that I started to receive information and guidance about people.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I thought I was a little crazy. I really did. I didn't understand what was going on. So I confided in one person and I told this person, I said, something is wrong with me and I don't like this feeling. I hear voices. It's like a lot of noise and I can't turn this off. And she was like, oh, I think your third eye is open. I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, go see. She was like, go to this tarot card reader and see um if she tells you that you can see, then ask her to teach you. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Like whatever. So I go to this tarot card reader and the first card that I pick, by the way, I wasn't really a believer of tarot. I did used to go see a lot of intuitives before myself, but I was like, tarot, tarot schmarrow. I didn't really believe in it. Um, so, anyways, so I go pick the card, and the first card is Seer. And she's like, oh, you came here to channel for people in this lifetime. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, but I'm so like in the business world, fashion world, like uh, yeah, okay. Well, I was like, okay. And she was like, your third eye is open. This is
Oh,
what my
no
friend
way.
told me. And she said, I said, okay, well, if my third eye is open, then will you teach me? And she said, oh no, I don't see. You see. I said, I don't see anything. I was in my mind, I was like, I just hear these voices. They won't go away. And she was like, let's ask the cards when you'll meet your teacher. So I'm like, I thought the whole thing, I took it like a joke, honestly. So she asked the cards and she was like, okay, so in the month of March, it was then January, you are going to meet a woman from overseas, and she's going to be your teacher. And I'm like, okay. Like, I really took everything she said with a pinch of salt.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was the last day of March. I'd almost forgotten about it all. Um, and um, and my husband was actually on the phone with a healer from Argentina, because his brother's really sick and he was looking for somebody to do remote healing for him. So he's on the phone with her. I get into the car, on speakerphone, and I'm like, so I put her on mute. I'm like, who is that? He was like, oh, this healer woman. I'm like, immediately I got this download. I'm like, I said, watch this space. She's going to be my teacher. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, no, you'll see. She's going to be the one who teaches me. And he was like, okay. So take her off of mute. And she like stopped talking to him. And she was like, who just got in the car with big brown eyes? And I'm like,
Uh-uh.
he's looking at me. And I'm
Goosebumps.
like, I know. And I'm like, you see, I told you. And
No way.
she was like, she said the same words. Do you know that your third eye is totally open? I was like, oh God, I've heard this one before. And then she goes on to say, she said, I'm traveling to LA next week and I must meet you. And I'm thinking, okay, that's crazy. So I was like, sure, I'll meet you. So I go to meet her. The first thing, like I meet her at a coffee shop. She starts bawling the second she sees me. And I'm a little uncomfortable, Capricorn, feelings, emotions. So, so I'm like, why is she crying? Like, why? And she was like, my guides told me to come to LA to meet an important person, and that person's you. I'm like, me? Important? I was like, what are you talking? She was like, I need to teach you everything I know. And there was a part of me that was like, yes. And the other part of me was like, no, this is not me. I'm so earthy, grounded, normal that like I kind of judged that world a little bit. And anyway, so she once I accepted it, and she kept telling me, she was like, you see, I said, I don't see. And she said, I'm gonna help you manage the voices. Okay. And I was like, oh yeah, I wanna get rid of that. I don't want these voices anymore. And she was like, no, you just don't know how to manage it. So I'm gonna teach you how to manage, how to turn it off. And I was like, yeah, okay. So it was very much Mr. Miyagi style, wax on,
Mm-hmm.
wax off, you
Mm-hmm.
know. She kind of like threw me into um just asking me random questions about like she would give me people's names that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say, like, tell me about this person. And I'm like, what? Out loud? This is so embarrassing. I was so embarrassed by it anyways. And that's how we kind of that's how I practiced with her. It was over Skype back then when Skype was a thing. So yeah.
Dang.
And she said one day you're going to be doing readings for people. And I didn't really want that. I didn't believe it. And then once I realized every time I pushed it away, it kept coming back. I was like, this is I know that I came here to do this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not even basing it on what the tarot card reader said. I just knew that every time I pushed it away, it kept coming back. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm I'm meant to do this work. And so I had a friend stay over and I said, hey, do you want to practice doing like intuitive stuff? And she was like, yeah. And both her parents had passed away. So I did like a practice reading for her. I didn't even know what a reading was, honestly. I was just like, let's just have fun. And I connected to both her parents and I was blown away. I myself, I'm always blown away. Even now after I do readings, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I got that. Like it just doesn't, I know it's not me. It's not me at all. It's just
Mm-hmm.
coming through me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this reading for her, pretend reading, fun reading. I connected to her parents. We unlocked so many things. She actually met her now husband 2 weeks after we did this like clearing. We were like tapping into old boyfriends, and she kept asking me like, why did he break up with me? And why did he break up with me? And it was just giving her a lot of like clarity
Mm-hmm.
and peace. And after that, she told a bunch of people. She went back to New York, and I started doing readings. It was never I never put myself out there. It was word of mouth for the last 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the story in a nutshell.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you didn't even set out to do this. That it just came to you. It's just like clearly part of your soul plan. Like this is part of what you're here to do.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, having said that, like before it came to me, I I was at work feeling very dissatisfied. I was feeling very like, is this really what I came here for? I always knew I had a higher purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but because my logical brain was like, well, you have this job and people, I kind of looked on the outside to get validation. People were like, oh, you're in fashion. Wow. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was a false sense of like feeling good about myself, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually I before this whole thing happened, I actually asked myself I was on a walk by the beach, and I was like, I'm so miserable, but I'm deciding not to complain. I'm not going to complain about work. I am I really want to tap into what really speaks to me, like what my truth is. And when
Mm-hmm.
I looked at my whole entire life, I found that the thing that really sparked joy, as what's her name would say, what's her name? Marie Kondo,
Mm-hmm.
sparked joy in my life was was um was my connection with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like even going for coffees with friends and helping them through certain issues. I loved helping them see the light. seeing
Mm,
who they were.
mhm.
And so I basically then on that walk, even though I was kind of miserable in my work situation, I wrote like my own personal mission statement. This is who I am. And I energized this vision. I was so excited about who I am, like on the inside, even though on the outside, like wasn't really going the same way. And I really feel like I aligned myself to that because I was so excited about, yeah, I want to help people. This is who I am. I love helping people. I love helping people um, see who they are through the lens of their higher selves, or
Ooh, that's beautiful.
yes.
How do you do that?
I well, so in my readings, I don't, have you heard of the Akashic records?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I've
Okay.
been
So
there,
yeah. So
visited
so
there
you know,
before.
the Akashic records is like a huge Google search for your soul. So, and this is what like I get goosebumps every time I do a reading because I'm like, I love what I do. I'm like on fire after a session. I'm like, oh, I loved it. I love it. And the reason I love it so much is that I feel like I'm able to see people for the soul that they are,
Mhm.
for their energy, for their
Mhm.
highest, truest potential, rather than the baggage that they come with,
Mhm.
their insecurities or
Mhm.
like, and the truth is, like, there was one time, only once, I did a reading for somebody who in real life, like that I knew, a friend, she really like got under my skin, like as a person.
Mhm.
And I did not know how I was going to do this reading for her, because of my judgment of her, right? I didn't want to judge her. I was like, she gets under my skin. So I begged the universe for help with that specific reading, saying, please get me out of the way. I don't want my own input. And when I went into that reading, I saw her for this pure, beautiful soul that she was,
Mm.
to the point that at the end of the reading, I was like, I love you. Like, I love
Mm.
you. Um, and that to me, it was like such a pivotal moment for me because
Mhm.
I really saw the beauty in this person that really, on a day to day, really got on my nerves. And after that, it like shifted our whole relationship. I
Because
could
you're able
see,
to see through. You could see
I
through her
saw her.
character and her false self. So break down again, just break down in case someone doesn't know, what are the Akashic records, and that you are able to go there in a meditative state. And
Yes.
yeah, so break it down,
So, um, I like to explain it in very layman terms. So,
please.
so
Yeah,
okay,
that's me.
that's me.
For sure.
I'm so like, what does that mean? So I do it really simple. So the Akashic records, basically, we all have our own Akashic record. Okay, so it's like a filing cabinet, and I like to liken it to the iCloud on an iPhone for you iPhone users. Okay,
Hmm.
so it's like you have your own file in there, like a library. And when I do a reading for somebody, I'm able to access your file. Okay, not to be nosy. It's not to be nosy. All your past, present, future thoughts, actions, everything is all stored in there. The whole idea of accessing your Akashic records, which is it's your soul's journey, it's your soul's record, it's not to be nosy. It's to help you um, see where your blockages are in certain areas and give you tools to overcome them. So this isn't a psychic reading per se, because I never tell anybody, well, this is your future and you're going to marry that guy in like 2 months. No, because you have to do the work. You have to be open to making that transformation for yourself.
Mm.
And and then the magic will happen. My goal is to help you connect to your magic and for
Mm.
help to help you see your magic, to feel it and be like, yes, and empower you to really like step into the shoes that you came here to be in.
What would you say to somebody that is suffering in some way, shape, or form, whether it be uh, chronic anxiety or depression or, you know, extreme codependency or people pleasing, or they feel lost, fill in the blank. Humans sometimes have a very hard time down here on earth.
Yeah.
Is there something general that you could say, like about our emotional state or our mental state, or something that is helpful for those people, those of us that are in that sort of state, chronic, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I would say that when I was at my rock bottom, I was there. I had major anxiety, like
Mm-hmm.
major anxiety. I was borderline depressed. I mean, I really was. So what I would say is that the more you connect to your higher self, to to the beyond,
Mm-hmm.
the more you like, what is anxiety? Anxiety is the lack of trust in the universe. It's saying, well, I don't trust you, God. I don't trust that you're gonna, you know, sort this out for me. I don't trust anything. I need to figure it out. And that is like the biggest mistake. And another thing is that a lot of us feel alone.
Yes.
I do so many
Mhm.
readings of people like, well, I'm alone and I'm the only one doing this. I'm like, I've got to figure it out for my mom, for my husband, for and that's the thing that we need to really understand is we are not alone. We have our guides. You may not hear them, and the only reason you don't hear them or you feel like you're on your own is because your mind is so busy trying to come up with a solution that you have disconnected yourself from the source. Like, I always liken tapping into your intuition or to your higher self like a radio station. You've got to be tuned into the right station.
Mm-hmm.
And the more noise, like basically you're not at the right frequency when you have all the thoughts in the brain, you are not tuned into the right frequency, just like the radio. So if you want to tune in to 101.7 and you're thinking so much, you're going to be tuned into 10 whatever 100.2, and you'll hear a little bit. You may get some intuitive downloads, but you won't really have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like for those people, it's really knowing that you are not alone. You are not alone. You have so much support, celestial support. You just need to ask for help, honestly.
Yeah, it seems like that so many of us, I know for myself even, I felt that way a lot of my life feeling alone. But the more I asked about it and reading books and with teachers, it's that, we come in here and our soul, it's a fragment of God, like we're a fragment of source, universe, whatever you want to call it. We're a fragment of light. And we separate, the illusion is that we're separate from that light. And the ego, of course,
100%.
comes in and says, well, you're separate, you're all alone. It's like, but we're really not. But mentally, it feels like we're very much alone. And recently I have just really been noticing, and the more, and a lot of what we've talked about in here in the academy is present moment, like living in the moment. And the more present I become, the more I realize we are so taken care of. And looking at the clock when it says 222, or there's the bird out there. And my friend just the other day said a phrase that I intuitively kept hearing. I was like, what did you just say? And I think when we can slow ourselves down enough and start paying attention to all the little signs or the phrase on the radio or the whatever the heck it is, all of a sudden we start realizing, wait, there are little nuggets everywhere around throughout our whole day. If we're willing to slow down and pay attention and look and listen. And then we start realizing, hey, hold on, maybe I'm not so alone. Maybe there is some grand orchestration around my life that I just can't
100%.
see, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my father actually passed away at the end of August. And the thing that brings me so much comfort is that I know he's around, and I've already, had some dialogue with him. But yes, it is because I was open. Um, he was born on November 1st, and
Mm,
so I always see like 11 since he passed away, 111, 1111. I'm like, oh
yeah,
my God.
there's your dad right there.
Yeah, there's my dad. So, yeah, it's really a matter of like tuning in to that frequency to be able to like connect. I know he's not gone. He's here. He's here right
So,
now.
do you believe that everybody has the ability to connect? to
100%.
here. Okay. So let us know, how do we begin doing that?
I cut you off. Connect to what? To their intuition? Is that what you were about to
Yeah.
say?
Your
Yeah.
intuition, higher self, spirit guides, angels, all of, I
Yeah.
mean, it's all the same to me, but
Okay.
yeah, if we want to segment them off, we can do that,
Okay.
but it's the same.
No, it's all the same. Yeah.
It's all the same.
So the first thing is to find the thing that really resonates with you, to kind of what I call get you into the zone. Okay, you've got
Mhm.
to get into a zone. So whether
Right.
it's meditation, now, I'm not really a fan of all kinds of meditations. It actually does the opposite for me.
Right.
Even though I do what I do, but like, and so I feel sometimes, oh, she doesn't really meditate. I don't, because it makes me think of my to-do list. Okay, that's just me personally. So I found my thing. So I love listening to white noise or the sound of rain or even
Yep.
like folding laundry, washing the dish, whatever it is that gets me long showers. I
Mhm.
love long showers. I get my best downloads in the shower. So number one, find the thing that resonates with you. Find that activity that you can be consistent about, because you're basically training your body to know that at those times you are the most open. You're training your body to know that you are now open to receiving signals. um, Now it doesn't mean you'll receive those signals exactly at those times. It's just a training. Okay, so I would find the same time every day to do those things. So I'll do it every day as soon as I wake up for 10-15 minutes, and before I go to bed. That's me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now there are some meditations that I like, but not
But
generally not.
I'm glad you brought that up because so many people have a very difficult time with sitting and just sitting in silence or letting the thoughts go by.
Yes.
I remember doing some social on this a long time ago, but it was called a living meditation, and it's exactly what you're talking about, which is um, what can you do throughout the day that is an activity? Like I get in my kayak, I'll go for a walk in the morning, and I am so
Yeah.
in the zone. It is like constant download the whole time, but I'm not sitting with my eyes closed, in lotus position.
Exactly.
But so I want everyone to hear that. It doesn't mean that you have to sit in silence. Go do something that you love, that you're aligning with. And then that is how that information, because you're in your heart. It's all about getting in
Yeah.
your heart space and you're locking in with your soul, and then it can start coming down through you. Okay. Number one.
100%.
Thank you. That was
So
great.
so yeah, it could be anything. For me, even like cleaning the house, like just getting into that
Yeah.
mode, like I'm not thinking about anything, and I'm like, oh wow, I just got the solution to that problem. You
Yeah.
know, the downloads come.
Yes.
Um, so okay, so that's number one. Find your activity, do it
Hmm.
every day, twice a day. Number two, the only reason a lot of us miss our cues from our guides from the universe is because we don't know how we're receiving them. Okay, so as I mentioned, like
Yeah.
my, hearing the voices, that was one of my ways. Eventually, I developed other senses. We experience our intuition through an extension of our five senses, obviously.
Mhm.
So I started to see, then I started to see images. I started to um, feel heat in my hands. I actually would go to Whole Foods and choose supplements for my kids, like the best organic stuff, without even looking at the boxes, you know,
Mhm.
for no ingredients. I didn't care. I was like, I would ask, what's in the highest good for this kid? And I would run my hands over the different products, and I'd be like, that's the one. Just based on feeling the heat and the energy in my hand, I'm like, that's the one. So it kind of like it takes you out of the equation, right?
Mhm.
So you've got to know how you receive your messages. I'm sure the listeners here have received intuitive downloads. It's like, how are you getting those downloads? Are you hearing it? Are you
Yeah.
seeing it? Do you just know? Because a lot of people, the information just drops in. They're like, I don't know, I just know. You know, are you um, smelling the loved ones? There. I didn't know I had that gift until one of my clients asked me about a property they wanted to buy, and as I was connecting to that piece of real estate, I started to smell mold. I was like, what is
Wow.
this? I was like, I think that place has a mold issue. I was like, and it felt like a weird thing to say, but I honestly could smell mold. And then when they did the due diligence, they called me
Found
and they're
mold.
like, yeah. So we all have our ways. We just have to recognize which way is the most dominant way that you receive.
And
And
I think that smell is a big thing because people, you like how I'm pointing?
yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I want to say one more thing about that. Don't doubt yourselves. I hear that all the
Yeah.
time. I don't know that I really heard that. I don't really think it. No. Yes, you did. I think we also have to start claiming it. Like, yes, I did hear that. Because it's like sometimes it's a whisper, sometimes it's loud. The smell thing is huge. I've had many, many times where I'm sitting with a client and I'm like, why am I smelling cigars? Like, what's going on? As a therapist and a coach, and my clients are like, my father always smoked
Yeah.
cigars. Okay.
Wow.
So go with it. Like, don't
Yes.
think it's like I remember people around me for years would say, "Why do I smell roses? Like, are you wearing perfume?" I'm like, "No, I don't wear that or oils or anything." And my great grandmother, her name is everyone called her Mother Rose, and I'm named after her. So I started going, "Oh my
Wow.
God, that's so random. That's my great grandmother." And a lot of intuitives have said, "Oh, your great grandmother's around you." I'm like, "Yeah, her name's Mother Rose or Rose." So don't doubt
Wow.
it. Like,
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah.
yeah. So go with it. Go with it. Go with it. And we have to start believing. And so many people I know just doubt it. That was nothing. No, it's something.
100%. 100,
Yeah,
100%. You know, when it takes practice, right?
it
It
does.
takes a matter of like getting validation at the beginning of your intuitive journey. And then after a while, you're not going to need the validation because you're going to really trust that what you're getting is legit. It's real. It's that first thing that comes to you. It is you
Mhm.
cannot second guess. Once you've put in your logic and your thoughts and try to like make sense out of your download, forget it.
Mm-mm.
You've thrown it all away. So, like a nice example I'd love to share. At the beginning of my journey, when I first started doing reading, um, I had a lot of imposter syndrome because I wasn't the typical person who does this kind of work. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like a fraud. I feel like fraud, even though I knew I wasn't because so many people were telling me that. But um, still, there's somewhere inside I felt like a fraud. And I did this reading for a lady. She was 75. And for some reason, I kept seeing an image of her jumping out of an airplane, skydiving. And I'm like, don't tell her that, Michelle. Like, that would be really, you wouldn't look good if you, like, it's obvious. Like, my logical brain told me there's no way a 75-year-old woman is going to jump out of an airplane. So, and I had this huge fight between my ego and
Hmm.
what was coming to me. I was like, stop it. Like, and I didn't tell her. I did not tell her. But when your guides and guidance wants to come through, they'll keep repeating it until you get it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in in the setting of a reading, if I don't share what I'm receiving, I'm not doing justice for her. So the hour had gone by and my guides were like, you have to tell her. I go, okay, fine. So so I tell her and she starts bawling. She's like, "Oh my God, in my 20s, I used to always skydive and it was very significant that it was like the missing piece of the puzzle. Now, had I
Yep.
let my brain tell me otherwise, and this is the thing, it's like when you get an intuitive download, don't try to put your own spin on it, your own logic,
Right.
because it's the guidance that it's the pure guidance that needs to come through, not what you've decided it should be, you
How,
know?
how
So,
how would someone tell the difference between a thought and pure guidance or like a download? What is your experience with that?
okay, I actually I teach people how to tap into their intuition and one of the main tools that I do is I tell people to name their ego. Okay. So I named my ego. I gave her a really ugly name. So my ego's name is Gertrude.
Hmm.
Okay. Like she sucks. Gertrude is like full of herself.
Hmm.
And then I also I gave a name to my higher self, and her name is higher self Michelle. Okay, so not very creative, but anyways, so like with the example of the lady skydiving, I knew, and I can feel the difference because intuition is received. It's not, it doesn't,
Hmm.
you don't get it in the brain. So Gertrude thinks things. Gertrude is logical.
Hmm.
Gertrude put her spin on why I shouldn't have told her that because I would look bad. See, I'm in the picture. Gertrude,
Yeah.
Gertrude. So, one of, yeah, naming your ego is so helpful. A lot of my students, I have a list of all their ego's names, and I'm like, is this, whatever the names are, or is this your higher self? Like, and you can feel because you receive the intuition in your body, not in your mind. And
Hmm.
that's how you can really differentiate. That's what
Mm.
really helps me.
Okay.
My middle child actually, um, she was really unhappy at school, and I knew, like as a mom, I was like, well, I still have my logical thing going on, right? So I was like, well, it doesn't really make sense to like pull her out of school, blah blah blah. And so I had to take myself, Gertrude, out of the question. I was like, put yourself aside, do your research, find your pros and cons. What's the pros and cons of taking her out, like, or putting her in homeschool because I was going to homeschool her. So I had my list. I got the logical part out of my system, and then I just laid it there. And I said, okay, now guides, help me because I'm kind of in my head about this. Help me, give me a sign. I will be open to whatever you tell me. Now, one of my cons of homeschooling was that I had to find matching furniture, like a desk for her room. And I was like, to me, it was a pain in the butt and I didn't want to do it.
Hmm.
Even though it's an easy fix, but it was one of my cons. And when I handed it over, I literally said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't. And I let her skip school, like the beginning of school for like 5 days, which for me kind of went against my brain. I'm very like, no, you have school and you have to go. So I listened to my guidance. And anyways, 5 days in, my neighbor is moving out and I see him like lugging this beautiful brand new Pottery Barn white desk that matches her bedroom. I was like, what are you doing with that desk? He said, I've sold everything in the apartment. For some reason, this is the only thing that didn't go. Do you want it?
No way.
What? And that was my sign. She was homeschooled shortly after that,
Wow, I
you know.
love that.
So, yes. So I feel like that's the way that you can get yourself out of it. You could do your logical research and then
Hmm.
leave it on the table and say, you know what? Here you go. I'm not going to decide either way.
Hmm.
And quiet your mind, be open to receiving the guidance in whatever way,
Hmm.
and
Beautiful.
trust. Yeah.
Also, when we're working with our angels, we have to ask them for help or they don't show up and help.
Yeah, I'm always asking my parking angels, like
Yeah.
always, all different kinds of angels. I actually had a client who needed urgent dental work and she didn't have a dentist. And I said to her, I said, ask your celestial dental guides to come in and show you who's the best for you, like who can do the job. And yeah, and she called me. She was like, "Oh my God, you won't believe." I don't know how she found this dentist that was connected to her great grandma. I don't even know. Like, and she was like, this guy didn't even charge her because he was so blown away that they had that connection.
Mm.
And I was like, you see, your guides showed you because you were quiet. You weren't trying to figure it out. You just let go and you said, show me. And that's really the key is like
And waiting and
surrendering.
yeah, and it may not show up in an hour. It might take a little
Right.
bit, but just keep
Yeah.
waiting and trusting that it will show up and
Yeah.
believing that.
Because you set the intention for that. Yeah.
Exactly. So I want to go back again to what we were just talking about for someone that is just having a hard time. And if they can't, and I like plugging in their intuition, like starting to trust, asking for help, asking for guidance, and waiting. Is there anything else that you'd say around that, though, for someone that is, because you've seen it, going into the Akashic records? I mean, the veil is lifted, and we know that everybody's of the light and we're all here for a divine purpose and all that. And that's easy when you're able to do that. But someone that's suffering and they're in just not in a great place right now, they feel really stuck. can you offer them anything to get them unstuck, like from a higher spiritual perspective?
So the thing that's coming through um is really about like tapping in to their value, to what they bring to the table.
Hmm.
Okay, because a lot of us feel crappy. Oh, well, I could have done that better and I could have
Hmm.
I suck at this and I don't like my boss and whatever else, you know? Um, and when I was in my rock bottom place, I didn't see my light. I kind of put it aside. I was like, yeah, but I would compare myself to other people. So the idea really is to really tap into who you are. When you're tapped into who you are, you're going to be seen in the way that you want to be seen in this world. Gifts and opportunities and synchronicities and a better job and a soulmate, whatever it is, will show up for you when you are truly honed into who you are, when you can see your inner beauty. So
Mm.
what I would recommend is for those of you who are in a hard place right now, to write down a list of like bullet point quick. I'm all about quick and to the point. Okay. Bullet points of what you bring to the table in different areas of your life. You know, as a daughter, as a friend, as a sibling, at work, and really internalize that. It's about embodying and knowing that value rather than just knowing it on an intellectual level.
Hmm.
You know, oh yeah, I know I'm a catch. I know that I deserve to be married, or yeah, you might know it, but if you don't feel it on the inside, if you don't internalize that, there's a disconnect there. So I would recommend writing this list and reading it over and over and over until it's almost like you're brainwashing yourself to believe it. You know
Hmm.
that you are worthy of so much. The universe has so much to give you. You have to just open yourself up to that, and that's the way to like kind of ignite that light within you that might be, it's not that it went away, it's just it's hidden at the moment,
And
you
feel
know.
it. It feels like too, we're so in our heads and we're so disconnected from the heart. And the heart is where we're connecting to that soul and the
Yes.
higher self perspective. We've got to get back to the heart space. And we spend all this time in the head trying to like figure it out. I got to figure out what's wrong with me. Why am I stuck? And we roll around in the head over and over and over again until finally we go into the heart space. I like that list
Yes.
idea, write the list and then feel like, what do these
And
things
feel it.
feel
Yes.
like to you? Right. And it'll
and,
crack
and
open the heart.
energize that vision, energize that the vision of what you want in your life, like,
Hmm.
which is what I did when I was feeling
Yes.
miserable.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I even like I visualized how I wanted my day to look like. I
Hmm.
I knew that I didn't want to work out of an office. I knew that I wanted to wear whatever the hell I wanted to wear for work. I knew that I want to create my own schedule. I knew that if I want to take 3 days off, I want to be able to do that. I want to
Right.
work from anywhere in this world. I created I Now it didn't feel like it was possible even then. I was like, how am I going to get there? And that's also a mistake. The how, like the questioning, how am I going to get there? How am I
Hmm.
going to get
Hmm.
Like, forget about the how. Just put out the intention. I want to live this kind of life and energize that vision and get excited about it, even if it feels like a faraway reality, because what you're doing, you're becoming a magnet to draw that into your life. And
Hmm.
and that's where magic happens. That's the magic.
Yeah, I always say we spend a lot more time talking about what we don't want than spending time talking about what we do want. We'll
Exactly.
complain about this and we're mad about that and that person and this. It's like if we could just spend even 5 minutes a day in our imagination and playing around with what would be fun in our future and plugging ourselves in, we could create the most incredible reality ever. So
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
those creation sessions. All right, we're going to shift over to the Q&A with the Academy of Awakening members, but just for the last few minutes here, let's go ahead and tune in. Let me know.
Can I
Let's
tap
give us
in?
I want a
Do I
sampling of the work for everyone that is listening. Give us a sample of what you do.
First of all, you're brave because you're doing this live.
I know, right?
online.
I
Yeah.
tend to put myself out there. This is called extreme vulnerability.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Okay, so all right, I already got your full name and birthdays before. So I'm gonna just take a moment because I need a moment to connect,
Okay.
even though we're connecting, but let's see what downloads are coming. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And I often look away
Yeah,
because
go.
that
You're
that's
fine.
that's also another way when you know to know the difference between your ego and your thoughts. I mean, sorry, your thoughts and your guidance is that if I were to look at you, it would probably be coming from here. But because I'm
Right.
looking away, I'm receiving it. It's like coming. Like if I asked you, "Hey, Michelle, tell me what you think I need to change," you wouldn't be like, "You need to change this." You'd be like, you'd probably look away and be like, "Oh, I think you should work on this, that, and the other." You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
okay.
definitely. No, I know exactly what you're
I,
talking about. I
I
agree.
don't know why I had to add that in there, but I did.
No, it's a
Okay.
good point.
All right. Okay. So, Michelle, the first thing that I'm getting, and this is just, I haven't even looked at the questions yet, but is that you came here to be a healer. Now, you are a healer. You are
Hmm.
a healer in what you do already. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to, have people in front of you and do Reiki. I'm not seeing that kind of healing. I feel like you are a healer through your communication, through your words. It's
Hmm.
it's you have the gift of voice.
Hmm.
Okay. So I feel like yeah, you might have the title of author and coach and this, that, and the other, but really what you are is a healer because I feel like those are just the ways that you express it.
Hmm.
But I feel like you need to step into that role of like really knowing that you are a healer, like incredible healer, by the way, incredible.
Mm.
I feel like it's funny because when we first connected on this podcast, I was like, I love your energy. I like I love how bright you are. Like,
Oh, thank you.
and I feel like um if you could also see how bright you are and like understand, it's not like, well, there are other people like me who do this kind of work, and maybe this other person has 300,000 followers and I have, yeah, that comparison. They're saying you are in a league of your own. Okay, you
Ooh.
are you're a different caliber, and I feel like you have such a connection to source, to the
Mhm.
universe. um and what I'm getting is like your next level is really stepping into that. Okay, like really stepping into that connection because
Mhm.
that's what's going to create the expansion. Okay, and I feel like you are it's like what you do now, which is incredible, is like a drop in the ocean of what's coming. Okay.
Yeah.
And all right, so I feel like you are going to have a global audience. I see you talking like at huge in huge forums, like um and I see you specifically. I also see kind of like a group of women
Mhm.
specifically, women
Mhm.
empowerment.
Mhm.
Okay, I see you empowering almost like a Tony Robbins, but not obviously. It's a Michelle Chalfant. Um, like I see you in that light. I see you really helping people doing retreats. Uh, you know, all over the world. I see you traveling. I feel
Mhm.
like you need to travel. You need to travel. Your
Mhm.
traveling is your plug in to source. All
Yeah.
of us have our thing. Some people have to play music, some people need to write
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
to get their creative juices out and get their, established connection. And what I'm getting for you is travel.
Mhm.
So, and meeting people from all
Mhm. I
different
love it.
walks of life.
I
Okay.
love
So,
that.
yeah. And I feel like you are a gem at networking. Like you have it's like they keep showing me um an image of you kind of like being the nucleus and like all these like
Mhm.
people like what's the word? Uh kind of like branches, right? Like an octopus
Yeah.
with tentacles. And
I
you
love
need
to
to know
connect
you're like the
people.
mother octopus. Yeah, you're like you're like, wow.
I love
Yeah,
to
and it
connect
feels like
people. Yeah. And so I
yeah.
love to support people. All right, I have a question for you.
Yes.
And thank you for that. You are spot on. And it's interesting. Talk about like the premonition or prophetic ideas. I remember being on the phone with my mom when I was 25. I was living in Richmond, Virginia, getting my master's degree. And I was on the phone. It was like a download. It just came. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to be standing in front of like giant audiences and I want to be a speaker. Now I'm getting like a master's in counseling in Richmond, Virginia.
Wow.
This is many, many, many years ago. And she goes, what? And I said, yeah, I don't know, mom. I'm just telling you. And it's sort of already happening now and it just keeps
Amazing.
going, but something that feels it's kind of in and out of and then we're going to go to the Q&A, but like retreat centers, do you see that, feel that
Yes.
like retreat centers, but like multiple, like around the world, maybe
Yes, around the world. I can see like Costa Rica, Thailand, like you
that
name
I
it.
own, like I'm owning these retreat centers and we're doing like retreats all over the world kind of thing.
Not necessarily that you own them, but you are kind of manning the ship and you are inviting different
Yeah,
collaborators. I feel like with you it's all about collaborations.
it is. I love
Um
collaborating. Yeah.
yeah, obviously with those who you feel aligned with, I feel like you are so tapped in, which is why I feel like you are who you are and you can do what you do.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because it's
Cool.
not, yes, you have a very business mind and business brain, but the magic that's happened with you is all otherworldly. And I
Yeah.
feel like you
Feels.
you really have that.
Ah, thank
Yeah.
you. I keep
Yeah.
getting it like in my meditations and we're ending right now, but like little dots of light all around. I see them lighting up around the world. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be there speaking. And I'm like, they look like retreat centers. So
Yes. And I feel like
thank you.
you just need to put the word out there. Like with all the followers there. You people, and in Europe also. I see Europe
Oh
for you
yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
London even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to, we have we have coaches all around the world. What do you get on the adult chair coaching certification? How does that feel to you?
That feels it feels really wonderful. It feels great. It feels aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll tell you the guidance that's coming through though about that is that you should not get stuck in the details.
Yeah.
Um, okay, like so step
I,
away.
I'm learning how to take my finger off the pulse of everything.
Yeah,
It's letting go and letting it evolve and all that. So yeah,
yeah.
cool.
Because a lot of us get like wrapped up in the details. We need to take a step back and
Yeah.
you'll feel a lot like that you can breathe better. You know,
Good.
yeah,
No, I love it. It's just I love it. Okay, cool, cool, cool. My darling, we're going to jump over to the live Q&A for a second, but
sure.
tell for people first, where would people find you? Tell us your
I'm on
website.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. What is that?
at Michelle Galoob.
Okay.
That's Galoob. My website's michellegaloob.com.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
yeah,
And you do one-on-one sessions for people, obviously, yes.
I do one-on-one sessions. I teach people how to tap into their intuition,
Love it.
and it's a forum where people can feel really like they're like, wow, even I'm intuitive. I can't believe it. So it's a forum where they get validation. They
Okay.
can get validation. I also have a school group. Have you heard of school?
Yeah.
SKOOL.
Oh, yeah. SKOOL. Cool. We'll put
Yes.
all this in the show notes. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. So
Awesome.
yeah, and I have some resources on there that
Thank you.
my AirPods.
Thank, thank you for my mini reading. I loved it. It was you're 100% accurate, dead on accurate. So thank you for that. That was
Oh, you're
phenomenal.
welcome.